Hello, Julian Circler. It's wonderful to join you again in conversation as we enter more deeply into the second showing of the 16 that she received. We've been lingering with this revelation for the entire months together, really, since we began in October. And in the small epistle I sent you last week, I raised the question of how Julian's notion of what happens to us in our experience of God, how this experience is something, in a sense, that doesn't simply rescue what was lost or repair what was broken, but it actually elevates us. It lifts us into a deeper dimension of the mystery of love. The love of our God, of course, but the love of ourselves, and that love that opens us to love others in the journeys of their own, as Julian would put it, their again making. It's a strange word that she uses, a very common one, a simple one, again making, sometimes translated as remaking or making again. And I want to pause to reflect with you a little bit more deeply about this theme. It's not a new theme in Julian. Indeed, it's one of the first ways in which we experience or learn about the experience of the earliest Christians, the earliest followers of Jesus, about their experience, their encounter with the living Christ. Paul, in his letters, in various ways and in several different moments of different letters, describes the experience of dying and being born anew. He doesn't use the word anew or again, actually. He simply talks about coming to life in Christ. For I have died, and my life is hid with Christ in God. It is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. This is Paul in the letter to the Galatians. What does he mean by that? And how does that help us understand Julian's peculiar, marvelous vision? Well, she's describing the same experience in a very different metaphorical way. She's describing the experience of losing our way only to discover that we were never lost by God. That the ways that we perceive our lives are inadequate to understand the mystery of love. And that we need, in a sense, another way of framing our life, another way of minding our life, another way of discovering that our lives are always being made again in God. What is this again making for Julian? As I suggested in the last short letter I sent you, it has to do with the ways in which we discover the beauty with which we were made, the beauty of our life, the deep and irrevocable beauty of your life, that God never stops seeing. In fact, elsewhere, Julian will say that we are God's crown, that we are the crowning achievement or gift, mark of God's royalty, that you, no matter how discouraged you may feel, or hopeless, or defeated, that you somehow are the crown of God's love. But it falls to you to discover this, and to me to discover this. This is what the again making, the remaking is all about. It's our finding an identity that was never lost in God's mind, even if we lost hold of it or it became obscured from our own vision of ourselves. So the drama of salvation for Julian is a drama of discovering what was always there, the love with which we were made, the love that holds us, that keeps us, the love that, in a sense, lifts us up beyond what we imagined we might be, is Julian's vision of our salvation or our again making. Now, she tells us here in very direct words that God created us for love. God didn't create us for duty or for discipline. God certainly did not create us for shame or for guilt. Indeed, God sees no guilt in any of us and ascribes no shame to any of us. That God only sees us as a lover does, seeing our potential, seeing what we might become again. And that message is one of such deep and abiding hope that, in point of fact, I would almost see this showing as an anchor for the entire series of revelations that Julian received. We're going to continue on in this revelation when we meet again on Wednesday. And I'd like to suggest that you turn in your reading of Julian, in your thinking about Julian, to that image that Julian gives us, and the one who created us for love. Those are her words. The one who created you for love. How do you hear that in your life? What does that evoke for you? What longings does that inspire in you? And perhaps what fears and uncertainties might that bring with it? That you were made for love. And by that same love, God wanted to restore you to the same bliss, happiness, joy. College and Walsh translated as blessedness. I think that's not quite right. Bliss is something more primal and more immediate, that God has made you for happiness, for deep and abiding happiness, for bliss, and for even more, or for what surpasses all of this. What a remarkable invitation that is, to live into that promise, to live into that hope, and to live into that beauty. Because finally, that is the heart of our journey in Christ. It's to live into a beauty that we did not make, that was made for us, that was made in us, and that will be made through us, through you, through your life. That something about what it means to be made for love opens us to the realization that our life is not our own, that your life is not your own. Your life is a gift given not simply for your experience of bliss, but for what surpasses that, for bringing that bliss, for bringing that joy into the world with those around you. That at least is Julian's vision of calling us to see this invitation as, in a sense, a commission as an empowerment in our lives. And that as we grow into the mystery of this love that never lets us go, we begin to understand that God creates all things in and through that love. And that our discovery of how God desires to make us again, our discovery of that desire, of God's desire to make us again, opens us to gives us courage, I think, and invites our vision to see that again making happening, at least potentially happening in the lives of those around us. I look forward to speaking with you about this remarkable claim when we meet on Wednesday. Every blessing to you, and until then.